Now, I've mentioned quite a bit about stormwater systems. So stormwater is not just for storms, but if you're washing your car in the driveway, like that water goes somewhere. So it goes through all of these drains that you see everywhere in your neighborhoods, in the cities, etc. Now, these stormwater systems are separate. Most of them are separate from the sewer system. A sewer is referring to human waste, whether it's toilet, shower, dishwasher, human waste going to a wastewater treatment plant. A stormwater system means you have a drain where all of the water from rain, we'll just say from rain, goes into. And that doesn't go to a wastewater treatment plant. That just goes through a tunnel that goes through a tunnel that goes to the ocean or river or whatnot. This image kind of shows that. This is actually showing here is the drinking water coming in. It gets used in the house. It gets treated at a wastewater treatment plant and goes back into that water body. And then here is stormwater going through a completely separate system, a non-treated system. So that's why I keep saying things like pervious surface can be quite an issue, because that warm water, those chemicals, that trash, it just goes into the stormwater and goes directly into a water body, untreated. Now, that's not the case everywhere. It is the case in most places, but there is an exception. Some cities, typically older cities, have a combined sewer and stormwater system. So instead of having two sets of pipes for the sewer and pipes for the stormwater, they share pipes. So that's what you can see here in both of these images. So here, this is, this coming from the building is representing our wastewater. Oops, sorry about that. I really want to write with this pen that I have. All right, you're going to get bad handwriting. So this right here is representing our wastewater. That's coming from this apartment building. So they're getting their drinking water, they're flushing it, and it goes down into a sewer, and then eventually it's going to go to a wastewater treatment plant. Next to this building, you have the storm drain. This is going to be for, I'm just going to write storm, for stormwater. So as you can see, it goes into the same tubes as our regular sewerage, and it goes down and then goes to the wastewater treatment plant. Awesome. So in times when there's not that much stormwater, this is actually a superior system. Stormwater is getting treated. That oil is taken out. That trash is taken out. It gets treated before entering the ecosystem again. However, these systems have a failsafe. That is what this outfall pipe is. An outfall pipe is built in systems like these because if you have a very, very heavy rainstorm, you might have an issue of too much water. So that's what this picture is. This picture is showing us, okay, here we've got all this water coming down. You know, the gutter system is really big. This storm drain has a whole bunch of water. So you have tons of water filling this sewer right here. That wastewater treatment plant can handle but so much wastewater. If we didn't control how much went to the wastewater treatment plant would flood, and you don't want that happening. So what we've created are outfall pipes. And what happens is when the water level gets high enough to go over this dam, which you see here, there's a little bit that's going over. Instead of that water going to the wastewater treatment plant, it just goes into the closest water body. Yeah. So that's not just stormwater. That's a stormwater and sewer water mix going directly into this water body. So although it has a really awesome environmental benefit of cleaning our storm drains, it also has this really sucks because it's been raining and now our raw sewage is going into the water body. So although it seems like a great idea, cities are moving away from this. This used to be very common, but as cities are updating their wastewater treatment plants and the sewer systems, they're getting away from the system. We still have it in DC. About a third of our wastewater goes to a wastewater treatment plant that has an outfall pipe. And so after a heavy rainstorm in DC, if you drive over the Roosevelt Bridge, you will smell it. You are smelling human waste. Yeah, so This is why I don't go into the Potomac River. And this is why you shouldn't go into the Potomac River. So this flashed up a while ago. This is a video looking at a small town up in New England. And it's a town that has a combined sewer and stormwater system. And it kind of gives you an inside look as to how cities and towns are affected by this system. How it's kind of beneficial, but honestly it breeds a whole bunch more problems than solutions. So go ahead and pause here and take a look at this video and really kind of think about kind of the pros and cons of this system. So go ahead, links should be popping up, and come back when you're done. So now you've kind of taken a look at what a combined sewer system can look like, but it takes a lot of money to change that, and that's money that we usually don't have. Now, one kind of last topic in pollution that I want to talk about was something that we've seen in a lot of those pictures, plastic pollution. A lot of the times, plastics are entering our water bodies through non-point source pollution. There's not some plastic factory that's just releasing Tupperware containers into the river. That's not happening. Honestly, with plastic pollution, the problem is us. Like you and me. It's not the farmers, it's not industry, it's not the government. It's you and me. It's the everyday consumer. You're out of convenience. You're like, oh, I want to clean out my car. Let me just clean it on my driveway and throw everything out on the ground. Like, that's our problem. So to give you an idea, you don't need to record these numbers, but every single day, 67 million plastic water bottles are used around the world. That's insane. That is unnecessary. Especially, that's just unnecessary. And of those water bottles, only 30% are recycled. Now, I'm not saying 70% are just thrown on the ground. Some of them could just be thrown away. But the point being is the amount of plastic we're using is just unfathomable. But once it enters an aquatic waterway, this is where you start seeing really freaking depressing pictures. This is some seal that I don't know if this was a cup or a part of a PVC pipe, but got cut around its snout and ends up starving to death. Here's a sea turtle that got caught as a small sea turtle in, those 6-ring things. And it literally is so strong. I mean, if you've ever tried to break these with your hand, you know this. So strong that it prevented the turtle from actually growing. And that's why the turtle is super thin right here. You see tons of videos and pictures about especially sea animals eating like plastic bags because they think it's a jellyfish. Like that happens, and that's because of you and me. The downside about these plastics is that they take a long time to break down. Depending on the plastic, depending on the environmental conditions, it can be as quick as 10 years or as long as 1,000 years. And that's kind of the issue, is that, if your napkin falls, napkin is a paper base that usually will break down fairly quickly. If you're dropping food, that'll break down fairly quickly. But the problem with plastics and plastic pollution is that you drop it and it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere, at least for a long period of time, which is why I kind of dedicate this slide to plastic pollution. You really shouldn't throw anything on the ground and not introduce anything into an aquatic ecosystem, but plastics especially. Plastics are such a huge issue. We literally have garbage patches in the ocean. They're actually all over the place. This picture is showing the Pacific Ocean. It's showing a couple of the garbage patches that exist, and it's ridiculous. Literally, I think this one right here, the eastern one, is like the size of Texas. Now, these aren't big plastics. These are micro plastics. Micro meaning really, really small, like a microscope. You could take a boat and go through this zone and maybe not even realize that you're in a garbage patch. But if you were to take a clear glass and dump it into the water and look at it, you would see all these microplastics. These microplastics are about the size of those little micro beads that used to be in face wash and lotions. Those microplastics are essentially plastics that have been breaking down for 5 years, 10 years, 20, 50 years. Plastics don't just degrade like food does. It essentially just breaks into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces until eventually, poof, it's gone. 1,000 years later. So we have these areas in the ocean where all of these big plastics are getting clumped together and they're running into each other and the light's shining down and there's bacteria in the water that's breaking those plastics into smaller and smaller pieces. But because of the ocean currents, all of those plastics are getting sucked into these concentrated garbage patches. And we can't clean them. They're way too big. We don't have enough money or enough resources to clean them. But we're already seeing organisms that have tons of these microplastics in them. They're just in the water, they eat something, and they're also getting a mouthful of microplastics. Yeah. And so although we can't clean it up, we can wait for nature to do its job, but we need to make sure we're not adding more and more plastic. I'm going to have you pause here and watch this video, and I'm going to warn you, it is like a super depressing video, but it really exasperates the problem of plastic pollution. And it kind of talks about these garbage patches. Not so much the patches in the ocean, but the way currents are carrying our trash around the world. So go ahead and watch this video because I am going to talk about it afterwards. So pause here, watch this video, and then come back. So as you saw in this video, hundreds, if not thousands of birds are dying every single year because they're eating plastic. They are starving, they're suffocating, they're filled with plastic. Now that was Midway Island. No one lives there. No one lives on Midway Island, but there is tons of plastic trash there. The reason for this is that Midway Island is found along one of these currents. So the trash that you get rid of in California flows around, and it's going to get dropped off at islands along the way. And trash from Japan gets dropped off and falls around. And so islands and ecosystems that are around these currents, plastic is literally washing up onto their shorelines. No one even lives there. Like, that's how bad this problem is. And again, it's a problem that you and I are creating. We can't blame it on the big guys. We can't blame it on money. We can't blame it on the government. We literally just look in the mirror and like, yeah, that's my fault. So it's kind of depressing when you think about it that way. So with our water pollution, again, there's two major categories. Our point source pollution, which is regulated. We talked about that a lot when talking about the Clean Water Act. And the non-regulated non-point source pollution. A lot of non-point source pollution is due to impervious surface. And impervious surface can cause flooding, which hurts human infrastructure. Not just on our roads, but of local rivers, and can cause erosion. We also are warming up that water because water is going across these very warm surfaces. And then also, that water is going to carry along pollutants along the way, such as our plastics that never break down. They just collect and collect. And they'll break down into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces, but it might take 10 years, 100 years, 500 years for them to actually go away. So just kind of some food for thought. Wastewater is taken care of through a wastewater treatment plant, but you and I are kind of responsible for this.